Welcome to the Mixed Race Belonging podcast, where we explore the intersection of mixed identity and belonging through the lens of somatics and personal and collective liberation to help you heal your belonging wounds and build relationships where you can show up as your full-ass self. I'm your host, Raina LaGrand, an embodiment coach for mixed race people with a background as a trauma therapist, yoga teacher, and health educator. The tools and insights I share with you here are the approach that has not only helped me heal my belonging wound, but also helped me help my mixed race clients do the same. We all need something good to belong to right now. Relationships and spaces where we feel safe, held, seen, heard, and dignified. Thanks for being here, and let's get started with today's show. Welcome back to the podcast. I was joking with my friend because I'm starting this podcast super low frills. Like it's just me. Like I'm just recording. My mic is stacked up like on this stack of books, and I have my screen in front of me, and I'm in my pajamas. I haven't even done my hair today. So I was joking with my friend like, a lot of podcasts have music. So what if I kind of just like do a little do 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 at the beginning of every episode? Because honestly, that's very me and kind of shows you guys who I am behind the professional veil. So basically, I hope you like my intro music. So last week on the podcast, I introduced myself and kind of how I got here to mixed race belonging as a business and as a podcast. And we talked about the belonging wound, what it is, how it shows up, and a little bit of like how I work with folks on that. Like, what is it that we do to heal the mixed race belonging wound? And today we're going to talk a bit more about somatics and why I use a somatic approach for healing the mixed race belonging wound. So, first of all, what the hell is somatics? So, some of you might have heard about somatics, and I'm assuming some of you haven't. First of all, somatics is an umbrella term that was coined by a man named Thomas Hanna in the 70s. And it essentially refers to all different kinds of like well-being practices that are body oriented. Yoga, Tai Chi, Feldenkrais, clinical somatics, etc. And there's so many emerging lineages now. Neuroaffective touch is one that I'm trained in. Generative somatics, Strozzi somatics. Somatic experiencing is a psychotherapy modality, sensory motor psychotherapy. So it's kind of a catch-all term. You might hear a lot of people say somatics is this. And I mean, the big kind of, thread is that it's like a body-oriented approach, but really somatics is a lot of different things. So just know that I might use that term in a singular way throughout the podcast. But it's really a lot of different things. There's so many different somatic approaches out there, which is really cool. I think it really reflects a yearning in our culture to get back to our bodies. And also, so many somatic modalities, all of them, I would argue, really have their roots in indigenous practice. They don't always say that, right? There's a lot of like erasure. But these body-oriented approaches are the ways that all of our ancestors across the globe used to, or in some cases still do, connect with each other and connect with the more than human world as well, and connect with nature. So I would say a lot of the modalities that I'm trained in, because I'm very integrative in my approach, are rooted in kind of like Eastern traditions, for yoga, for example, kind of mindfulness, like those sort of like Eastern leaning traditions. But I think there's a lot in me innately around my Blackness and like my African heritage. Dance, for instance, and like beats and drums are just something that my body feels so connected to. And I think being here in the United States on Turtle Island, there's a lot of influence of nature and like the seasons that really comes out of like many Native American traditions. So, word to all those lineages. Thank you. And thank you for many of the modern teachers that I've learned from and continue to learn from. So, anyways, that's a little breakdown of like what somatics is. And, I wanted to share a quote with you because you might be like, well, why are we doing this work with the body? Like, can I just have a different thought or like something, right? Like so many healing modalities that are westernized psychotherapy is like so cognitive oriented, but Ta-Nehisi Coates has this profound quote from his book Between the World and Me that I want to read to you. He says, "But all our phrasing, race relations, racial chasm, racial justice, racial profiling, white privilege, even white supremacy, serves to obscure that racism is a visceral experience, that it dislodges brains, blocks airways, rips muscles, extracts organs, cracks bones, breaks teeth. You must always remember that the sociology, the history, the economics, the graphs, the charts, the regressions all land with great violence upon the body." Right? Racism is a somatic experience. It lands on our body, it lands on our relationships. It lands on that like interplay between two bodies or more bodies, right? And really, systems of oppression rely on us being disconnected from our bodies. They rely on us being in like a protection mode that keeps us very like focused outward for the next threat, focused on what we need to do for survival, rather than really connecting to what we want inside, what we feel inside, what we need, right? So, somatics for me is the gold standard for healing really all kinds of trauma. And there can be this kind of binary in the somatic world, like it has to be all body, but your mind is in your body, right? So when I'm working with folks, we are still using and engaging the mind. We are just also inviting in the body. And sometimes that means asking mind to step aside because mind is used to kind of being in the supremacist sort of parental seat. So sometimes, yeah, we're dropping into body in a little bit deeper ways, but the body is in the mind. So you're not wrong to be thinking about things or asking questions. And with that, one of the first tasks really in somatic work, the kind of somatic work that I do, is to build the mind's capacity to kind of get out of the driver's seat, but be in like a more of like a witnessing capacity, and even like allowing the body to come into more sensing. So really like feeling. And I call this, and I've heard it called this elsewhere too, is like we're kind of coming into this like compassionate witness stance. We're coming into this space where we're stepping back from what we're experiencing, getting out of the agenda, out of the impulses, and just being the compassionate witness that we've always wanted, that many of us have never had. And I think of it too, especially as somebody with chronic pain. I think of it like learning to be a steward of our bodies. There is so much that we often want to change about our bodies or our experience in our bodies. But really, it's like, can we drop that agenda and just be with ourselves, a nurturing, compassionate presence? So that's the first task, really, is like building that witnessing mind capacity. And I know sometimes people hear that and they're like, but what if, like, blah. This doesn't mean that we are ignoring all the things that we want to change or grow, but we have to kind of like let go a little bit and like kind of like hold what we long for with an open palm. Yeah. So then the next steps are really that as we have that ability to witness our experience, to notice what we're thinking, what emotions are coming up, what information our senses are pulling in, what informations our senses are remembering from the past, what behaviors are happening in our body, whether they're actively happening or kind of like impulses and urges, and what we're experiencing on a sensory level. Like that's all the things that we're witnessing. Thoughts, emotions, five senses, behaviors, and sensation, right? As we start to be a witness to that present moment to moment experience, we get a little bit more space, because often the ways that we are stuck in our belonging wound is like rejection, avoid, right? Like somebody's going to abandon me, reach out, like, kind of urgently trying to keep ourselves from experiencing the pain of being rejected or feeling alone, or whatever other kind of like pain we experience in relationships. So we're building a little bit more space between whatever is coming up in our bodies and how we're responding to it. And as we build that space, that is literally actually expanding the capacity of our nervous system. There's a lot of talk about nervous system regulation. I like the term more so like nervous system mobility. Because when we have that space, we can work with our nervous system to ramp up or ramp down a little bit. And then we are helping ourselves to really discern more accurately what's happening. Because belonging wound brain is like, this is happening. It's the most dangerous thing ever. Gotta get away. Gotta, prevent this from happening at all costs. But when we feel more safety in our bodies, we can discern more accurately whether we are safe or in danger, or whether we're in this zone that we can call safe enough. Like, I'm going to express a boundary to someone and I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I know that I'm safe enough, physically at least, to express this boundary, this need. I know that intellectually this relationship maybe is safe enough, or even that actually I'm going to get the information that I need. If I say my boundary and it's not respected, that's going to be good information for me. So we're discerning more accurately through somatics and practice when we are safe from when we are in danger, to even like when we are safe enough to experiment a little bit. And we are learning that we don't have to be so afraid of feeling what comes up when we do the thing or don't do the thing, right? Because so much we are avoiding the feeling of, man, I'm going to be rejected. And my body knows that so deeply. And like when I was young, I was so alone with that feeling. And it's like my stomach is in knots and I just can't feel that way. Ugh. But with somatics and nervous system mobility skills, we learn that it's okay to feel, and also that we learn how to respond to ourselves when we're feeling that way. So we know how to help ourselves feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more safe. And actually, that's a question that I pose to my clients a lot is, how can you help yourself right now in this moment feel 1% more comfortable? And that's a practice of attuning to our bodies, attuning to what our bodies are feeling and what they need. Because with trauma, we are often disconnected from our bodies, focused on what's on the outside. And as mixed race people, what are other people thinking about me? Do they accept me? Do they think I belong here? Am I acting too white? Am I performing blackness in the right way? You know, all these things. So we're bringing the focus back inside. Not because we don't care about like being a good person, but because we want to have relationships where we can be open and honest and authentic about what's happening inside. My friend and colleague Anna Lemler introduced me to this term rewilding. That doing this somatic work is really like undoing all the layers of like colonialism and like all the ways that we are have taken ourselves out of nature as humans, and that we need to get in touch with like our wild like selves. My friend Cassandra Lam of Collective Rest, I think they call it actually like your feral self. That, and they do a lot of work around rest, that when you rest, right, it's not about just resting, but it's about when I rest, I actually can notice more of what's happening in my body and what I need. And it's not that I'm going to rest all the time and not engage in work to undo oppression, but that actually like being in the busyness and the urgency of like colonialism and capitalism keeps me out of touch with my body's needs. And my body's needs have a lot of really good information about how we actually get ourselves free, how we move towards personal and connect and collective liberation. So when I'm working with clients, we are building that witnessing capacity. We are developing skills for nervous system mobility. We are expanding our capacity to discern more accurately, moment to moment, whether we're safe or in danger, to realize when we're shrinking ourselves for other people's comfort, to really notice when that's happening. We're grieving. We are opening up to grief around our experience, right? And all this connection with ourselves helps us to connect with other people and vice versa. I like to say connection begets connection. Connection begets connection. The more connected you are to yourself, not in an isolationist way, but in a, hey, I'm noticing way, the more connected you can be to other people. And I use that word attunement. When we attune to ourselves, that helps us to attune to other people. That helps us to have a more felt sense of what's happening in that person's inner world right now. What's happening in my partner's mind or body? What's happening in my friend's mind or body, and my coworker's mind or body? Right? It's a way that we can like learn to relate to one another. Attunement. And attunement, research shows, is actually how we build trust, both in our relationships and with our own bodies. When we are offering, like, when we are attuned to other people and they feel they feel like, ooh, you get me, that builds trust, right? Think about the times when somebody has really seen you. You trust them so much more than the people that you have to prove yourself to. And that's an internal process that can happen as well. Attuning to your inner world, your sensations, your emotions, you start to build trust. Self-trust is something that I think a lot of us mixed folks struggle with so much. We're so focused on what other people think of us and how we need to perform or what we need to do or not do in the world, that it becomes really confusing for us if we're doing the right thing, because we're outsourcing that validation. And again, of course, we want external validation. We need that sort of like connection with other people to feel seen, right? But we often get stuck in relying on it in a certain way. So when I'm working with people in one-on-one coaching, this is a depthful process. We give ourselves lots of space and time. My coaching program is 6 months. We give ourselves lots of space and time to really deepen into this attunement with ourselves. And this is a skill that then you take with you everywhere you go, and that continues to like snowball and serve you more and more. I really love doing this work with people. It's like so rewarding, and this is an experience that I have been through myself. I have been in therapy off and on most of my life, and I was in talk therapy for years, as that was the standard for everybody for the most part for a long time. And I think I shared this, I don't know if it was today in this podcast or before, but I recently found some worksheets from when I was in cognitive behavioral therapy as a teen. And the core belief that me and my therapist were working with was how I felt like unlikable. Nobody liked me, right? And I did a lot of really great work with her where I sort of stopped focusing on that thought, and instead I started like taking classes without my toxic group of friends and kind of putting myself out there more. But I still inside was questioning myself all the time. It really wasn't until I started working with a somatic therapist, and actually when I did my yoga teacher training too. So when I really started to get into my body, I did my yoga teacher training, and then I went to grad school, started working with a somatic therapist. I started taking trainings on somatic therapy. That was when things really changed, where it felt like my mind and body were in full alignment, where it felt like when I was anxious, I knew how to support myself. I stopped overthinking. I started really putting myself out there and feeling confident about myself. I started noticing how I felt in relationships, and I started sticking with relationships where I felt good, where I felt seen, where I felt like I could relax. Because I'd spent so many years like being in relationships that I, felt like validated me in my identity in some way, or being in relationships with other people because I felt sorry for them because I knew what it was like to feel anxious and isolated, and like so much love to all those people. And also, you don't want to be friends with someone just because you feel sorry for them. You want to be friends with them because you like them and you like the way you feel around them. So, this is a journey I have been on, and this is a journey I have supported dozens of mixed race people through, both in one-on-one coaching and in my group course Belonging Building Blocks. And I just welcome you into that process. I Either by the time this episode airs or maybe a week later, my sales page for one-on-one coaching is going to be updated, and there's going to be a link to schedule a call with me. It's an hour-long sales call where I am really going to listen to your experience and what you're struggling with. And I'll share a bit about what working together could look like, and we can kind of do all that logistics kind of stuff. So if you're interested, don't hesitate to schedule a sales call. I'd really love to talk with you and show you what's possible. All right, thanks for listening in, y'all. Take care.